championships. We crown the best team from the EU region and the NA region. But guys, we're going to jump right into this one. We're going to go into it a little bit hot. We didn't get to talk about these teams too much just because there is just so much going on here. This weekend's going to be a bunch of fun. Can't wait to get the gates open right now. It's going to be Go Next versus Sky 7. Let's jump down to the action for the blind pick on the Grand Arena.
All right, here we go. Go Next. Actually, we're seeing some adaptations here I wouldn't normally expect. We have Ratipi on a Holy Paladin, normally playing that Discipline Priest. And not only that, a big surprise, at least to me, is Fried Kitty not playing Frost Mage. I mean, we've seen him in the past basically exclusively play Frost Mage. He's going to be playing Fire here with the Rogue Mage Paladin, which is pretty standard. I think Sky 7, what they're bringing is, you know, this is a decent matchup for them as that Windwalker, Death Knight, Mistweaver. This is definitely one of those matchups that could go either way.
All right, let's get it underway. The first elimination round of the day. Sky 7 eliminated AWC, previous BlizzCon champions. They're newcomers to the tournament scene, a 3-player roster. What can they do here against BlizzCon competitor Ratipi, picking up that Holy Paladin in game 1? Cheap shot to set Fried Kitty up. Will he be able to change it into a polymorph? He does. Beautiful swap of crowd control. Perfect setup here onto the Windwalker Monk, but Radan is there with the anti-magic zone, negating a lot of the pressure. However, the Rogue Mage Paladin is running that Gladiator's Maledict trinket, and I'm curious if they can use that to try and absorb some of this incoming healing. Beautiful Ring of Peace and a double leg sweep. Excellent counter aggression from Sky 7, followed up with huge damage. Ratipi responds, trading out the Ultimate Sacrifice and Avenging Wrath. Both these teams are looking evenly matched just seconds in.
Yeah, it's looking good. Actually, Leo Lulu on the Windwalker Monk, he's going to be playing the Ride the Wind honor talent, so trying to basically counter Spite if Ashley and Fried Kitty were playing that. But Go Next, unfortunately for Sky 7, they're not going to be running that Spite trinket. Actually, they are, so the Ride the Wind preemptive, this is a bit strange. They drop the Spite on the Ride the Wind, so they're not going to be getting full value from that. Nicely done by Leo Lulu, but I don't know if it's going to matter. The blind sap pre-life cocoon coming in, and now Leo Lulu could be in a lot of trouble. He does have the karma rolling away. Doesn't look like the corruption stacked up too high, and it seems like with that preemptive cocoon as well as that touch of karma, it's going to be up to Sky 7 to just get counter pressure and the first and potentially only ice block from Fried Kitty. A great counter push and great play there by Sky 7.
Swap over to Ashley on that Rogue, trying to force more cooldowns from Go Next. Double leg sweep, setting them up beautifully here. Touch of Death is rolling. How is Ratipi going to deal with it? It's going to be a Blessing of Protection. He's trying to hold on to it for now, but it could be a big connective damage. They grip Fried Kitty out of line of sight. Going for the DR stun to try and finish the job, but it's not enough damage to do so. Ratipi picking his team back up with the Avenging Wrath. Counterspell sniped in onto the Mistweaver. Leo could be in trouble, but he pre-walls the incoming stun. Beautiful defensive communication from the team of Sky 7. A newcomer 3-player roster. They're playing phenomenally at this point. They are running a bit low on cooldown, so they need to keep up their aggression here. They've initiated crowd control. Unfortunately, the chain is broken. No follow-up out of that paralyze. Ratipi goes for a big heal on very low health. Not even looking too big through the pressure of Sky 7. Ratipi needs to pick up Fried Kitty as soon as possible, or it's going to likely be his cauterize. Interrupted on Polymorph, unable to blink. They stun up the Windwalker desperately. Radan leading the charge here. We saw a Thing from Beyond spawn onto Radan. I'm curious how much corruption he's actually wearing. Deciding to play the Gushing Wounds build here on that Death Knight, whereas the Windwalker is focused on versatility. It makes a lot of sense. You know the Windwalker is going to be the target. Let the Death Knight maximize his damage with his corruption instead.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where if you're a class that has a really good defense, and Unholy Death Knights do, you can get away with not using the versatility and trying to just go for the Gushing Wounds, and that's going to allow him to put out a ton of damage. Whereas Leo Lulu, I mean, right now he's just so defensively geared. He's got Battle Masters, Lingering Psychic Shell, just basically, you know, 6 defensive cooldowns he can rotate through to try to survive against Go Next. And if he rotates them properly, I just don't see him going down. Fried Kitty in the meantime taking a huge hit of damage. Ratipi caught into a stun, and now once again Sky 7 seems to be in the driver's seat of this match. Fried Kitty using both of his displacements to try to get away, but still Radan, Leo Lulu, they are all over him. He does get a big heal from Ratipi. Ratipi saving the day there with the Ultimate Sacrifice and his Avenging Wrath. In terms of mana, Ratipi a bit behind right now, but they're actually making a big swap over to Outbreak. Are they going to be able to take him down? The anti-magic zone should be enough, but they're kind of just pushing through. Ashley actually trinkets out aggressively. Outbreak could fall. He's down to 10% health. Can he get away? The Dragon's Breath needs to just get some healing on himself. He portals away with the Transcendence. and gets behind the pillar, heals himself to full, but that was quite a close call there, Sid.
Oh, Touch of Death rolling. Bless-Your Protection for Ratify just in the nick of time. Triple crowd control by Go Next. They need to finish in this kidney shot. Do they have enough damage to do so? They drop one Gladiator Spite, a bit peculiar there. Not going to be coordinated with any of the others. Blinding Light, though, onto the Mistweaver, still crowd controlled. Leo has some answers if he needs to trade. It doesn't look like he even needs to. Ratify opting to break out of Paralyze with his Gladiator's Medallion. He could be susceptible to a leg sweep in the near future. Touch of Karma to trade out and stay aggressive while his healer is locked out. Beautiful leg sweep onto 2 targets. Ratify now has to Divine Shield, but he just can't keep up with the damage. He's 2 seconds away from his Avenging Wrath. Cauterize is triggered 1 second away. Is Ratify going to pop it immediately? He does, but he gets crowd controlled instantaneously on it. 2 members of his team down to half. Leo leading the charge with the Flying Serpent Kick. Orb just going to pre-Life Cocoon to get his Windwalker on target and finish this game out. Beautiful coordination from Sky 7. I love the preemptive plays from their side. They didn't really make any mistakes in terms of overlapping either, and this is looking like a strong newcomer.
Yeah, I mean, a very fun team to watch. I really loved watching Leo, Lulu rolling around on that Monk. That was a lot of fun to see. But let's actually talk about both of these squads, right, Zico? Because we didn't get to really dive in to everything that we're seeing right now because, as Sid already mentioned, we have a new coming squad, but also we have a very different team here for Ratify as well. Let's start with the victors coming out of this one, though, and actually break down what happened.
Dude, it's the
Oh, Zico!
Are you serious?
Zico!
Dude, I actually... You're doing it intentionally at this point, I swear.
We'll never know. We'll never know.
Oh my god.
Well, basically, there was no overlaps. It was a clean defense. Sky 7, they just held on, held strong, didn't allow, any cracks in their defense to happen. And they're able to respond very well to the spites as well with that Ride the Wind. And eventually they were able to take down Fried Kitty on that Fire Mage.
Okay, so we talk about new teams, Super T's. We have a lot of new teams actually all of a sudden stepping up with how many teams have actually been signing up. I'm still laughing at Zico being muted. But Sid, I mean, the dynamic has been very interesting to actually see how many new teams have been trying to jump onto that tournament realm, get access to all of the juiciest gear possible, and just see what they really do have, Sid.
One thing that's interesting is Dendi, who's been making it into the top 8, even in the community events, didn't make it to the top 8 here, and they were eliminated by Go Next. And Dendi pretty much exclusively runs that Mage, Warlock, Mistweaver. Perhaps they were lured into bringing in their Warrior in that series, and they ended up losing Warrior Mage versus Rogue Mage or something along that lines. But Go Next also has a strong Shadow Priest Rogue. They play similar compositions to the Golden Guardians in that regard, well, just one similarity, the Shadow Priest Rogue. And I'm wondering if they utilized the Shadow Priest Rogue against Dendi in that series, and this could be kind of maybe a precursor to Golden Guardians' potential tomorrow in the North American tournament, because they have that composition. Right now, that Rogue Mage Paladin, it didn't look too great from them overall. I mean, there was no solid spite setup that I saw. There was amazing, like, pre-Ride the Winds from the Windwalker. I am wondering if they are going to go back to their Shadow Priest Rogue after game 1.
How do you feel about that, Ben?
Well, yeah, I would say they definitely weren't coming with the cleanest gameplay in number 1, but I mean, that being said, this is an extremely, in my opinion, an extremely hard composition for the Rogue Mage Paladin to deal with. I mean, especially, you're playing against a Windwalker Monk. Essentially, your only targets in the match are the Windwalker Monk and the Mistweaver Monk. And I think if the Mistweaver Monk plays it right and gears right, and the Windwalker Monk plays it right and gears right, it is just really difficult to push through, just the amount of defensive cooldowns you can rotate through. So for, Leo in that matchup, he's got the Lingering Psychic Shell, the powerful Tank Trinket from the Zost that can keep him alive. He's playing Battle Masters, he's playing Fortifying Brew, he has Diffuse Magic, he has Touch of Karma, so there's just a lot of defensive cooldowns, and if you're not overlapping them, it seems really hard to push through as the Rogue Mage Paladin, unless you're using the Spike Trinket. And it seems like most of the rogue mages, if not all of them, are only finding success in a lot of these matchups against these like very durable, you know, windwalkers and warriors and mistweavers when they are utilizing the spike trinket. And I think if you're not setting that up well, I just don't see the win condition for rogue mage.
Yeah, I think that's a very good thing to bring up. I do need to bring up something that's not important to bring up at all, but just a bunch of people in chat going, man, Zico just he's just baiting you. Like, you guys are too easy. Oh man, he's doing this joke again. It's not a joke. This is real life. This is actually real life, man. Like, people in the chat are like, yeah, Zico got all of you. It's like, no.
I did.
Zico didn't play you. Zico played himself. Let's talk about what the teams are going to be playing, though, because the compositions have been locked in. Go Next and Sky 7. Zico, what do you think of this matchup on Hook Point?
I think it's a good map for Rogue Mage, for sure. You want to have, you know, basically doing a hit and run strategy is very good on this map. The pillars are very small. It's going to be pretty easy for the mage to land some polymorphs, you know, with that shimmer, and hopefully they're going to be able to, you know, connect. Another good thing as well is that the paladins kind of travel to get a Hammer of Justice isn't very far. You know, he can just kind of use his Divine Steed, run in, charge his target, and then run back to his original healing position. So this is a great map. It's what I would have picked as well if I was in Go Next. But they basically, I think it's a lot of it is going to come down to the opener here. We want to see Go Next force out a Gladiator Medallion from either the Mistweaver or the Windwalker here in the opener. That's going to allow them to kind of get that momentum where all of a sudden they can kind of accelerate the game, smoke bomb on who doesn't have Trinket or blind him and set up a new spite. That's when the game gets rolling. So the opener is going to be key.
All right, you heard it from Zico. We got to be paying attention to this opener. It is definitely going to be that omen of what is to come in this matchup. Sky 7 going to be leading by 1. Let's get these gates open.
All right, see if Go Next decides to go all in here in game number 2. Otherwise, Sky 7 might be taking an early lead to match point. The gates have opened. They really need to get a sap and a spite from stealth if they're still going to be running the spite strategy here in game number 2, but they're not going to find it. Ashley is sniped out of stealth. That is devastating for Go Next. How are they going to pick themselves up from this starting point, Ben?
I don't know. I mean, Raden, he literally ran in, got all 3 members in combat immediately, so definitely not the best start here for Go Next. Now in a stun, Fried Kitty getting absolutely destroyed. Paralyzed on Rattapie. He uses this trinket and the ultimate sacrifice in order to get, you know, that defensive cooldown onto Fried Kitty and keep him alive, preventing him from using Ice Block. But still, Leo, Lulu, Raden, they're going to be pushing forward. They're going to be getting that damage rolling onto Fried Kitty. Does get topped off Rattapie with his Avenging Wrath. This provides him massive healing, but still, it just seems like pressure in favor of Sky 7. Finally, a blind coming in. Orbre, he's going to immediately trinket that in order to free himself from crowd control, and that's a good trade. Use your Gladiator's Medallion on the blind. Just don't allow the Rogue Mage to get any pressure, and you can see Sky 7, I mean, their aggression is just relentless.
All right, are they going to be able to set up a swap to the Mistweaver in the near future? Already having to Ice Block. Insane pressure from Sky 7, and I think it's Rattapie's build. He's decided to go for Conflict and Strife Major to get the Divine Favor, but he is losing out on an insane amount of healing, not having the Vision of Perfection. Avenging Wrath is really what makes Paladin, be it Ret or Holy, powerful at the moment, and his Avenging Wrath uptime is so limited without that Vision of Perfection Major. His healing is just so lackluster. He needs 11 more seconds to get to the next round of Avenging Wrath. Fried Kitty currently interrupted on critically low health, 6 seconds away from it. Fried Kitty looking for Desperation Polymorphs, not finding them. Ashley's on a solo mission to try and kill the Mistweaver. Fried Kitty and Rattapie move in. It's do or die to take down Orbre right now. Kidney shot into Hammer of Justice. Good stun lock chain here into the silence, into a Dragon's Breath, but not enough damage to do the job. Orb now going to Transcendence away. Fried Kitty getting a beating here with that Drestigat trinket popping off. This could be the Cauterize. Rattapie crowd control. He breaks out, but Cauterize triggers. He has to now overlap Blessing and Protection. They switch over to the Rogue. They could just drop him as well. Evasion, everything thrown out by Go Next in one assault. Sky 7 have a huge lead.
Wow, this is so much pressure here. Full Polymorph, though. Leo could be in some trouble. Will be the lingering Psychic Shell that keeps Leo in the fight, as well as that anti-magic zone, and that's going to allow him to be more than durable in the situation. And now, once again, I mean, Go Next, there's really nothing left in terms of defensive cooldowns. Rattapie has his ultimate sacrifice, but the pressure is unrelenting. Touch of Death is rolling. Fried Kitty could be in some trouble. Blessing of Protection does land, Radopi burning through the last little bit of his defense to keep Fried Kitty in the fight. Now, switching over to Orbre. Go Next is looking for a moment, but Ashley caught into a stun could just absolutely get destroyed. Radopi trading the ultimate sacrifice and now literally has no defensive cooldowns left. I feel like Sid, right now, Go Next is in so much trouble.
I mean, Sky 7, this Death Knight, is wearing Gushing Wounds pretty much on every single piece of gear. That's why we occasionally see a Thing from Beyond spawn. The pressure that he's getting from it on that Unholy Death Knight is insane at the moment. Radopi is really struggling, 2 seconds away from his Avenging Wrath. He's playing out in midfield. As soon as it comes off cooldown, he's pressing that, activating his wings. His healing will be increased for some time. Now, will the Windwalker Death Knight decide to play defensive and wait for that cooldown to be over? They do need to be careful. Their Mistweaver with no Gliders Medallion is susceptible to a swap, and that's exactly what Go Next are going after. The weakest link right now. Radopi needs to get there for the hammer. Lays down the hammer, but he left a global cooldown in between, so Orbre was able to get Fortifying Brew. Now he's rolled to safety. Actually, now rolling right back in. It seems like he's not afraid. He's pushing for the game-winning crowd control. Leg sweep secured. Fried Kitty drops. Sky 7 moved to match point. And it's looking like this series isn't even going to be a contest for them if Go Next don't step up.
And let's actually unmute our microphones right now and start all the way back at the opener. Because Zico, I know that this was one of the things that, you know, right when we jumped in, you said we need to be watching the opener. What happened there and how did that set up for Sky 7 to be able to get themselves on match point?
Well, gotta make sure. Okay, we're good.
Yeah. I got your back.
So, thanks. I could tell. So they got AoE'd out there in the start, you know, and that's one of the downsides of Hook Point, right? It's a very small map, so there's less area for, you know, the rogues to kind of hide. But if you run in and the DK runs in, it's very likely that you get AoE'd out. So you kind of have to be a little careful when you're the rogue. But at the same time, as the rogue in Ashley's defense, you also have to rush the opener so they don't get in combat on your team. So it's a little tricky. Unfortunately for the Rogue Mage team here, they weren't able to get that opener. And, you know, when you play Rogue Mage and you're starting the game on the back foot, it's very hard to kind of get that momentum rolling. So eventually they got just kind of crushed. You know, a few defensive overlaps as well from Radopi and Fried Kitty didn't really help their case.
Yeah, I know that there was a moment in this game as well that you wanted to review with everybody right now. What is that moment?
This is just like during the ending of the game, kind of just thought it was a pretty nice setup. I like what Sky 7 has been doing throughout the game in general. They went on Fried, they forced out Carterize, they went on Fried and forced out, you know, the bubble on Radopi and Bobs. They did a couple of swaps to the Rogue, and then here in the end they just had a nice clean leg sweep setup with, you know, all cooldowns active and no defensives to respond on the side of the Rogue Mage. So. Sky 7 definitely bringing the heat so far.
Now, I do want to actually as well just kind of talk about Go Next and this roster and kind of what we think about it, because Venruki, when we look at Radopi, quite a history in AWC. I remember the first time that we really saw Radopi pop off was when we were it was at Gamescom, right? In Germany. It was probably the first time that we really saw him pop off. So, yeah, let's actually talk about kind of the legacy of Radopi right now and how he ends up on this team.
Well, I mean, Radopi kind of came into the scene with a really strong, I mean, he's kind of known as just this player that played a really, really aggressive rogue mage priest, and I became a fan of him. I think a lot of people did really quickly just because of the sheer nature of their playstyle. They played rogue mage, they played it really, really aggressive, more so than any other rogue mages we were seeing, and they did that for a long time. But Radopi, I think he struggled for a little while just because he essentially only played the Discipline Priest. I think it's nice here that we are seeing him on the Holy Paladin. You can see a little bit more diversity in the lineup. And now, I mean, teaming up with Valet, Ashley, Fried Kitty, they do have some depth to this roster. So, of course, they have the Rogue Mage, they have the Shadow Priest Rogue, as well as the Mage Shadow Priest, which is something I know Fried Kitty and Valet have played quite a bit of. I'll have to see if they can actually implement that. Radopi potentially needing to play the Mistweaver Monk. I kind of wonder how, like, Mage Shadow Priest Mistweaver would do into this composition. Maybe something they want to try on a larger map. But I think just in general, looking at this matchup, I think they need to try to punish the Death Knight a little bit more. If they're going to be playing Spike Trinkets and he's going to be playing basically no defense, all Gushing Wounds, over-corrupting, like, that has to be a better target than the Windwalker Monk, who's literally running every defensive talent voice you could possibly run. But I want them to kind of experiment. I feel like right now they're kind of sticking to a script, and that script isn't working at all. So I'd like to see them, show some flexibility in their strategy and try to just go after the Death Knight potentially a little bit more, or just completely change their composition.
Supatis, would you agree with that?
I mean, it could be a good punish with the Spite Trinket, but I think Radan, like, his gear is maxed out for all damage, but his talents aren't. Like, he's running Lichborn. It's really difficult to kill a Death Knight as Lichborn because you're almost always getting out of every leg sweep. So you're never going to stun them. If you can't stun them in the Spite, they just Lichborn, Death Advance, walk through your Ring of Peace, get out of the Spite, and then they Death Strike a couple times. Right? And they're going to be okay. It could... I just feel like anytime I see a Death Knight get targeted by Rogue Mage, like, what was this? There was one scenario where literally the Death Knight got blind sapped in Spite and had no way to get out of it, and literally nothing happened, which is, like, mind-blowing, because usually if you get blind sapped in Spite, like, it's usually game over, but a Death Knight is, like, one of the few classes that can survive. But he's also running Conflict Major, so he's taking less damage in every kidney shot, like, although I guess he's not running the versatility amps, so maybe it's not as much versatility. They could experiment with it. I'd honestly rather see them play a different comp. Your idea makes a lot of sense. Go to a big map, try the Mage Shadow Priest, try and Wizard them. I think if they ran like a Shadow Priest with Mind Trauma, and maybe even a full Haste Shadow Priest rather than versatility, and then a Fire Mage for greater Pyro, and you have 2 threats, it's kind of like a, I don't know if I want to call it a budget version of Mage Lock. It could actually be just as good as Mage Lock in this particular matchup, because they know this team only plays one comp. So if they can just switch over to the Wizard setups that we've seen other teams win, I mean, we see Boomkins winning in Wizard Cleaves against Windwalker Death Knights. So I think that's something I'd like to see first from them. Ooh. Then when they lock in a small map, maybe that's when you make a change. Try something else, maybe the Rogue Mage again.
This is interesting.
I would prefer to see the Shadow Priest. Okay, they are going to do it.
Yeah.
With the Priest.
But
so they got the double Priest.
Yeah, let's actually... Yeah, go ahead, Van.
I was just going to say, I feel like this is something that's kind of unique to them. I've played this composition before, actually, a little bit with Healing Stat and Trust Keys. It was actually really fun. So in the past, the Discipline Priest, well, even right now, it provides additional damage. So I would say Shadow Priest Frost Mage doesn't have the most amount of damage, the most amount of burst damage, but you have really good crowd control. The cool thing about adding a Discipline Priest is that you have even more damage. So all of a sudden you have a Discipline Priest who can provide, penance, smites, Shadow Word Pain to do additional burst on their goes, and potentially even the Dark Archangel. So that might be the damage they need to actually push over this Windwalker Death Knight. The problem is, I feel like Discipline Priests struggle on mana quite a bit. So if they're not taking down Sky 7 quickly, I think if Sky 7 is just putting out consistent damage onto Valet or even, onto Fried Kitty, Rattapie is really going to struggle long-term, keeping them alive and kind of going toe-to-toe on mana against this Mistweaver Monk coming in from Sky 7.
Yeah, Zico, how much of a timer is Go Next going to be on the sands of Tolvaron Arena?
Actually, I think Go Next are the ones holding the timer. I think Sky 7 are on a timer because I don't think they can actually die that easily until the game kind of goes late. I think they need to Rattapie before that happens. I could see them also killing Rattapie on that Discipline Priest. So I think he needs to be a little scared.
Okay, yeah, so he's definitely going to be the target potentially here. But
it's him or Valet.
Well, keep in mind, I mean, how great it is to see Go Next able to go to this composition, right? We talk about the history of Rattapie. It was playing on this Priest. You talk about Valet. I mean, Valet is such an incredible competitor, finds himself in some weird situations where sometimes he's on rosters and we don't get to see him fully utilized. Now, it's time for him to step up to the plate next to Rattapie on that Priest and Fried Kitty on the Mage. Are they going to be able to keep themselves in this tournament, or is Sky 7 going to close it out here?
I mean,
it's been kind of... I was going to say, it's been kind of like a saying for us on the Caster Death Sid, where anytime Valet is on a team, and that team isn't playing Valet, we just want them to have Valet in instead, because he just somehow makes these compositions work really well.
I mean, he's BlizzCon finalist Shadow Priest. He's insane at Shadow Priest. I mean, I would compare like WizKid and Valet easily. Like, I would love to see a Shadow Priest Rogue Shaman mirror between Golden Guardians and Go Next. Maybe a former iteration of Go Next, or maybe a Shaman main, whereas Rattapie might need a little bit of work on his Shaman, but He's definitely an insane Shadow Priest, and
Oh,
you see
no.
Sky 7. This is the Tolvaron story where they play melee classes, right? So they have to be up in their face. They have to run right up to their opponents. But if you run right up to your opponent on Tolvaron, then you leave one of the casters open to free cast, and if they're free casting, you're probably gonna die. So what the Death Knight teams have as an opt is to just wait at the box. This is what they're doing. They're waiting at the box. If somebody gets a little bit too close to them, they might death grip them back behind the box, stun them, and try and burst them down. Or they're just trying to put some time on the clock. And they do want to go after the Discipline Priest, a very aggressive strategy. I actually kind of like this on this map in particular. Just go for the all-in, try and close the game out. I mean, you might have like a 10% chance to win the game instantly, and if you don't, oh well, it's Tolvaron and you're a melee cleave. Like, really big deal there. So I actually do like the go after the healer option.
I don't think Rattapie should be anywhere near them, to be honest with you. They got paint suppression so early on, but here we go. Go next. They're actually going to be pushing in. Crowd control on Orbre, and right now Raden could be taking a little bit of damage, but on that Death Knight is going to be feeling relatively durable. Anti-magic zone actually drops, and this is a trade for the Icy Veins. Nice knock! Raden's going to actually just fall right now! Beautiful plays. Rattapie with the Shining Force is going to be knocking him out of the protection of that anti-magic zone. And go next. That was a beautiful go coming in from them, and I don't think Sky 7 really anticipated that setup at all.
It feels like it's been a little while. We talked about how Rattapie did capture everybody's hearts the first time around, the young rat. And he's going to do it in style yet again. He's going to be able to keep them in this tournament. Zico, let's talk about how.
Sky 7 just kind of throwing extremely hard in general. I mean, I'm going to call them out. They played good the first 2 games. I called it out. And now they played pretty horrible. So I'm going to call that out as well. Delay goes in behind a pillar. There's a DK on the opposite side chasing a Disc Priest. Just killed. Like, if you're 3 melees, or 2 melees and a healer, and you're behind the pillar, and there's a Shadow Priest that walks in, what's 1 + 1? Like, just kill him. Instead, they tank a double fear. Then they don't stop the polymorph when Fried Kitty goes for the sheep out of the Shadow Priest stun on the healer. So the Shadow Priest fears into a stun, into a sheep. No one stops it. And then also they under-respond heavily with their cooldowns, using only anti-magic zone. I don't know. It's a pretty big throw.
Okay, yeah. So you're kind of throwing it more on mistakes from Sky 7 than Go Next playing out of their minds.
I think Go Next played it well, but I also think Sky 7 completely dropped the ball.
Okay, very.
It's a mix. Like, one team obviously did play good, but also another team could have, like, if they just stopped the poly, like, that's it. That's literally all they needed to do. They could have just paralyzed.
What do you think maybe did cause Sky 7 to not play as well as they did in the first games? Do you think it's just not being ready for the aggression that a comp like the one Go Next brought can bring?
I think that inexperience against this comp. I don't think the Monk was running Vitality Conduit as well. There's like just a lot of things that if they know how this comp plays, the only way the Shadow Priest Mage wins is with a super long CC chain like that. They need to get a Fear, they need to get Sheep, and then they need to have, stun and silence from the Shadow Priest in addition to that, usually to land kills. And I feel like that just shouldn't happen because you're playing a comp that doesn't have the lockdown to kill somebody even when you get that CC chain. If you use your stun on the healer, well, you're not going to have a stun for the DPS. So I feel like any damage that the DK takes is because he's being too aggressive.
I keep seeing, like, it's the new trash talk right now. Anytime somebody loses, somebody in chat goes, they're just farming echoes right now. It's like what? It's actually so funny. It's my favorite thing that I've seen in the chat so far today. But the games already have been very, very good to watch in this series. We've seen Go Next make some changes in the compositions that they bring. Now we know Black Rook Hold is going to be the next map. That was locked in by Sky 7. If you don't know how the format does work, when you're coming off of a loss, first you start off with a blind pick into Grand Arena. Then after that, if you're coming off the loss, you start the draft by getting to pick the map. Then the next team, the team that you're playing against, who just got the victory, is going to lock in their composition, and then you get to lock in as the team who did lose your composition with complete information, and then you get to rock and roll from there. Sky 7 still is going to be on match point. Go Next, trying to extend this all of the way to a Game 5 to decide it. They need to pull off the reverse sweep, and now they are going to be bringing the Shadow Priest, the Frost Mage, and Radopi is going to be going back on the Monk for Blackrook Hold. Sid, why do you think he's going back to the Monk here?
He doesn't want to die on a small map as a Discipline Priest. I think so. I think that's the main plan there. Mistweaver has also still got knockback, so you can knock out of the anti-magic zone with the Ring of Peace. It brings similar utility. It's a he could still die in a stun, which is what I'm worried about. He might just get gripped and then die in a stun. That's likely to be Sky 7's strategy here, as long as they're not shook up too much by that last game. And they shouldn't be too shook up, because even if they lose here, they've still got one more game. So they've got like a little bit of breathing room to be cheeky and be a bit aggressive. But Radopi's going to lose out on a lot of damage not running the Discipline Priest. I mean, he was playing his Disc Priest with full Gushing Wound. Like, he went just full YOLO, just, I'm going to kill something this game. And that's probably why the other team really didn't see that much pressure coming, because, I mean, it's a Frost Mage. You're like, it's a Frost Mage. Like, he's going to slow us. He's going to be really annoying, but he's not going to kill us. But I think Radopi's damage really had a big impact in that last game, and they're not going to have that this time.
Yeah, Ben, what do you think's actually going to happen when we do get to Blackrook Hold?
I don't know. Well, I mean, I feel like Sky 7, like Zico was kind of alluding to, I mean, if they play well defensively, I think they should last a lot longer in this matchup. Actually, I guess I don't mind the Mistweaver Monk, but I just feel like when Radopi's on the Discipline Priest and they have like that extra, you know, the X factor of, you know, having the Dark Archangel and the Discipline Priest damage, that's that extra damage that can kind of surprise a team like Sky 7 and take them down. I think that surprise and the fact that Go Next is really the only team that plays the Shadow Priest, Frost Mage, Discipline Priest, I was liking it, you know? It looked good for them. I mean, even if they didn't win in that setup, they had really good burst damage. The Discipline Priest just works really, really nice in that composition. Obviously, there's got to be a reason why they're switching to the Mistweaver Monk. I feel like Radopi would way rather play his comfort pick with the Discipline Priest. Maybe he just is really afraid of getting trained down, or maybe there's a different composition we don't know about that Sky 7 can run. But yeah, the Mistweaver Monk obviously going to be a lot less offensive, but it should be able to keep Valet and Fried Kitty in the match going a lot longer.
Now, Zico.
And the Priest.
Sorry to cut you off there for a second.
No, it's okay.
But yeah, Zico, I know that you queue with the young rat quite a bit. I know that you're no stranger to what he's able to do, even firsthand. Now, my question is, we've talked quite a bit about, you know, Radopi for a very long time got criticism for not being the best multi-classer. With where things stand right now, how do you feel he really does perform as a multi-classer? How do you feel like he does look on things like the Monk?
I don't want to throw him too much under the bus, but I feel like I think he should focus on his Paladin as his secondary healer, because it makes the most sense with what his team runs and with the meta right now, and stay on his Priest like as his main. I think I don't actually like that he picks up the Monk. I mean, sure, it's a great meta pick, but I feel like he's better on his Paladin compared to his Monk. And I think that if he does play his Paladin, they're going to have better success, just because Shadow Priest Mage Paladin is better than Shadow Priest Mage Monk, and Rogue Mage Paladin is also better, you know, than like a Rogue Mage Monk. So I feel like it's just more effective if he does.
And all of these things are going to be very important to think about, but it can all come down to this map. Sky 7 trying to close out the series right here and right now.
Weird. Radopi's running Maledict, but nobody else on his team is, so I'm wondering if they're going to bait a Dispel, or maybe wait for a Polymorph to be dispelled and then go for like a Double Claw Maledict. Really big push on those trinkets. Triple Fear set up initially by Valet. Beautiful setup with the Polymorph by Fried Kitty, but they're actually going on the Mistweaver. Bit of a surprise attack, and he's looking like he may just fall over. Huge damage into that Fortifying Brew, but Orbre holds on. The surprise attack from Go Next is going to fail, and now they're likely to be on the defense. Radopi stunned up, swap over to Valet. Huge pressure from both sides, not even a minute in.
Yeah, Valet could be in some trouble here. We'll have to see how Radopi deals with the situation. We've seen Sky 7 put out crazy amounts of damage in the first two games. Paralyzed now on Radopi. Fried Kitty taking a little bit of heat here from Leo and Rodden as they push forward. Valet trying to get that damage rolling. And I did see a thing from Beyond, so somebody is over-corrupted in this matchup, and I have a feeling, once again, it is going to be Rodden. We'll have to see how much damage he's able to put out with that Gushing Wound if he's running that. I kind of like that, even though he died so early on in the last game, he's still willing to, you know, over-corrupt and put out that massive damage we see from Unholy Death Knights running the Gushing Wound.
All right, he's kind of running a mix. He's got some haste, some versatility, and some gushing wounds. This is kind of the first time I've seen someone mix all three together. Radan targeted. He Lichborn, so he's got some damage reduction here while his Mistweaver can't heal. Now with that focused T, he should top off, but no mind controlled on the cast. Nice mind control timing. They have to paralyze the Shadow Priest and retreat for a moment. Ring of Peace locks Rattapie around the corner on the ramp. Beautiful Ring of Peace into Rattapie. Double leg sweep. This is match point. Sky 7 looking to go all the way. But Rattapie's Life Cocoon denies the kill for now. However, Touch of Death is still available. But in the meantime, Orbra gets counterspelled. Leo could fall behind. He's going to activate Fortified Brew, make himself a little bit harder to kill. Raden line of sights while he's disarmed and can't use Death Strike. Good positioning. Excellent map usage right now from the team of Sky 7. I love these grips and knocks. Pulling Fried Kitty into the room now, trying to burst him down. Rattapie was in position to save him. However, Rattapie's mana management at the moment not looking very solid. He may need to try and drink. This is why we see him rolling far from the fight. He's going to sit down, start eating. This will regenerate mana unless Sky 7 can move over and put him in combat, but that's very difficult to do when you're crossing the midfield against a Mage and a Shadow Priest, and this is exactly what Go Next needed to do. They're massively behind on mana. They set themselves up for drinks, and now they can maintain themselves into the mid-game.
Ooh, a nice double fear coming in from Valet. Where is the setup, though? Right now, Orbe, you can see, is just positioned so far away, really just trying to deny any sort of polymorph plays from Fried Kitty. I think it is going to be up to Valet to kind of set up Fried Kitty to get those polymorphs, but it is just so difficult sometimes. Fried Kitty looking for the polymorphs. If they can bait it a spell from Orbe, then that's when they can try to make plays with Maledict. If they have that available, you can kind of play around that as the Frost Mage since you have so much crowd control. But it's going to be taking quite a bit of damage as it looks like Sky 7 for the first time in the match. They're going to be retreating, actually gripping Valet in behind. Very nice Ring of Peace, pinning him against the wall. And not allowing Rattapie to get too many heals off, but it just seems like he's going to be fine with the Vampiric Embrace. Not overreacting or panicking in the situation. Vampiric Embrace is enough to keep him alive. And I think Sky 7, they're going to be feeling pretty comfy behind this gate right now. Not in line of sight of Fried Kitty. And it looks like they're going to be willing to take this to dampening.
They're creating a little trap in the room here. Death gripping one of the wizards into the room and then Ring of Piecing them back behind the wall. That seems to be the main strategy for Sky 7. You can definitely tell that they don't have a lot of time against a composition like this. They're trying to make things up as they go, but they grip a Shadow Priest into their team. That's going to result in a triple fear, possibly a counter-aggression assault here from Go Next as Icy Veins is popped. Frozen Orb is down. Fried Kitty looks to max out his damage. Orbre anticipates it. Life Cocooning as Windwalker. Raden just doesn't take damage apparently on the swap, and they're looking A-OK from the push of Go Next. Now gripping Fried Kitty back into the room. Ring of Peace to try and lock him in, but he blinks right through the locked door back out into midfield. And both teams will stabilize. If we take stock of the cooldowns after the first 4 minutes and 45 seconds, not too much of significance. No ice blocks forced, no void shift. These are the very long cooldowns that you may only see once or possibly twice in a game. These are the cooldowns that you want to get before dampening if you're Sky 7. On the opposite side, no anti-magic zone forced. Really nothing of significance. There's no opening for either side at the moment. Dampening is looking like very likely a requirement for these two teams at the moment. Fried Kitty gets stunned up with no Gladiator's Medallion, looking to try and force an opening here. No Life Cocoon either, but even still without the Life Cocoon, Rattapie appears to be doing fine, healing through the damage.
Yep. I mean, Mistweaver's pre-dampening. They got a lot of throughput, so if they're not in crowd control, they're likely going to be able to deal with the damage quite nicely. In cap on into a fear onto Arbre, into a leg sweep. Actually, nice setup here. Anti-magic zone drops out, but that wasn't for any significant cooldowns. But I guess Arbre, he was not feeling too healthy there. Beautiful mind control coming in from Valet, removing him from the safety of that anti-magic zone. With the quick transcendence, this Mistweaver Monk is going to be completely fine. Now Rattapie actually taking a little bit of damage as he's forced to trade his Life Cocoon onto Fried Kitty. Right now, Leo and Raden, they're going to be pushing forward, trying to just really slow down Fried Kitty. And eventually, the damage from the Windwalker Monk, from the Death Knight, should kind of surpass the consistent damage of the Shadow Priest Frost Mage. But the problem is, if you get too deep into dampening as Sky 7, all of a sudden, with the passive healing that Mistweaver Monk has, it can be hard to deal with some of the damage the Frost Mage and Shadow Priest have. Especially, you know, you get counterspelled. Like right now, this is where you can fall really far behind, and we can see Go Next start developing some momentum.
Really trying to push for an ice block here with a double leg sweep. Do they have enough damage to do so? Valet counter engages, but Raden responds. He shouldn't take too much damage with that Lichborn activated. And he's still just staying on target. But Vitality Conduit activated from Ratapai is easily healing through the damage. Raden times his Dressigath right after the Vitality Conduit, but I believe Fried Kitty Temporal shielded it. Really good anticipation from Fried Kitty. Tons of damage negated for free from his play there with the Temporal Shield. Valet using that Mind Trauma, trying to cast as many Mind Flays as possible. Every fully channeled Mind Flay steals haste from his target, and they can just reduce the global cooldowns, reduce a ton of damage overall, and also just make the Shadow Priest cast really fast. This is an honor talent that has become basically a requirement for most Shadow Priests in the current meta, especially if you're going to run a wizard setup like a mage or a warlock. Definitely, if you're a Shadow Priest at home, you want to be checking out Valet's build. That Mind Trauma is a very important component.
It's actually really fun too. I think it's like one of the things about Shadow Priest I enjoyed the most when I was playing it. Is just trying to maintain maximum uptime on that debuff. So, yeah, I mean, Valet, he's going to be trying to get maximum usage of that, but anytime it ramps up too high, it seems like Sky 7, they're willing to just kind of reset here, and that will fall off, so Valet has to basically reset those stacks to get that damage going. And I have to say, Sid, who do you think actually will pull out ahead as we can move deeper and deeper into dampening?
Right now it's looking like Orbre could just die if he's not careful. He's stunned up. He breaks out of the stun in Life Cocoon, so he should be okay in this position. I like that Go Next, like, they mix it up, going after the Mistweaver. I think they've realized the Death Knight, he's probably not going to die before really deep dampening. Windwalker could die if he doesn't have a Gladiator's Medallion, such as this situation right now. They could set up a swap later with the Psychic Horror stun or a leg sweep. Valet is currently on the defensive, though. It could be a dispersion. Yep, they're going to get a dispersion with that excellent crowd control chain. Based on that scenario right there, I mean, Sky 7 have potential. It's pretty close to call who's exactly going to take it right now. If they continue to get these swaps onto Valet, it could be a good opening. They haven't managed to get any ice blocks, so they're likely to stay on the Shadow Priest. Although this Ring of Peace isn't really allowing Leo to connect just yet. Rolling back out. But they really want to attack him with the Mage free casting Frostbolts. Leo seems to be okay with it, but I mean, Valet is just stealing his haste with Mind Flay and not really doing any damage to the Shadow Priest. This is the stun I was talking about, with no way to escape crowd control. Probably the only time you're going to see the Windwalker be scared. But Anti-Magic Zone denies the kill there, and then Leo doesn't die in the stun. If he doesn't die in the stun, he's going to be able to start healing himself for quite a bit. And it looks like he should begin to stabilize. Orbre now out of crowd control, but nice mind control at low health, trying to hit the Life Cocoon with it. Orbre doesn't fall for that shenanigans from the Shadow Priest, not wasting the cooldown whatsoever. And they're going to start to stabilize. Leo just needs to stay out of a stun for another 30 seconds. Although the pressure is starting to be a lot more consistent. Fried Kitty misses his counter spell, but he finds a Polymorph. Leo has to respect that and trade Touch of Karma, retreating back into the room. Radan now knows that he's going to be swapped to, so he's trying to run back into the room. And they're going to look for that Death Grip strategy. They grip the Mage in, but is he going to be able to blink before it's over? Life Grip. Oh, but it's overlapped with the Gladiator's Medallion. I feel like that was a bit of a mistake between Fried Kitty and Valet. I feel like only one of those was really necessary. But either way, Counterspell has been landed. Raden cannot Death Strike while he is disarmed currently for 2 more seconds. He anti-magic shields, but Dampening is now at a point where Death Strike may not be enough for him to sustain. Lichborning as well. Orbre is silenced, and it's looking like Go Next could move to a Game 5. Orbre breaks out of crowd control and Life Cocoons. Based off the pressure of that last push, this is looking like Go Next's game.
Yep, and Fried Kitty does have Icy Veins. That's a massive offensive cooldown. Beautiful mind control. Look at Raden. He's just in the middle of nowhere. If he gets caught into snares, into roots, Fried Kitty will be able to just do a significant burst on him. But it looks like the Vitality Conduit, even in dampening, will be able to keep Raden alive as they retreat to the room once again. But this is what happens. If you're a Cleave and you get caught in this position, and now you're all of a sudden just eating blizzards, you're eating frozen orbs, kind of allowing Ratapai to sit down and drink, I think this is a position that's actually game-winning for Go Next. It's looking a lot better for Go Next. Fried Kitty actually used his Icy Veins. I think that's why Sky 7 is more than happy to just run and hide, retreat, not really give him any value from that cooldown, and potentially just look for grip stuns whenever anyone gets close. But I just think with Valet having such short defensive cooldowns, with the dispersion, with the fade, this is looking really, really good for Go Next.
Oh, another swap over onto the Mistweaver. Is that? I think he missed the anti-magic zone. He gets Ring of Peace out of it. He's pinned against the back of the door. But Life Cocoon will stabilize. Rattapie, Valet, and Fried Kitty decide to pull away from the fight. They don't want to get triple leg sweeped in the room. Having seen that they forced Life Cocoon, there's still an opening with no Trinket now on Orbre. They could set up another swap, but it's looking like momentum could swing in favor of Sky 7 as Valet gets blasted down from that Drestigath. Rattapie still can't heal for a moment. Fade is now faded. Leg sweep for 1 second is going to force Valet's hand. He has to disperse, but Orbre, while he was pushing out for crowd controlled, got crowd controlled himself, currently in a polymorph. Are they going to set up a swap? Valet gets gripped out of line of sight. It could be difficult to swap without the Shadow Priest. Valet jumps into Void form, trying to pressure with Vampiric Embrace, healing himself as well, but he gets Ring of Peace back in the room. Damage is finally starting to sink on this Death Knight at 43% dampening. Can they push him over and get into a game 5? They've got pretty much every cooldown from him with that Lichborn and the anti-magic shield, but at the same time, Rattapie is interrupted. Valet could have to Void Shift. He gets Life Cocoon at the last second. They shred right through the Life Cocoon, and this is going to be a ballroom blitz to the finish if neither team decides to pull away from this engagement. Will Valet make it out alive? Fading on 30%. Ring of Peace back into the room. Rattapie continuously stun lock, but Valet triple fears them away. Rattapie is tanking so many interrupts, though, in this position. Orbre gets polymorphed. Who's going to fall first? Ra-Den or Valet? Ra-Den is looking to take the negative part of this exchange. Disarmed, unable to Death Strike. No Life Cocoon for 30 seconds. Void form has been activated. His healer is silenced. He gets Ring of Peace back into the room. Vitality Conduit activates. Free healing for Ra-Den. Orbre, though, has to pick up 3 members of the team, and now at almost 50% dampening, that Shadow Priest is looking really relevant with his pressure. Karma now forced from the Windwalker. However, if he just dies in an interrupt, it's not going to matter. Everything was looking so good for them. They were a couple moments away from winning, and it's going to slip from their fingers. Sky 7 advanced 3-1.
That's so heartbreaking for